sensors, right? Weather sensors, health sensors, gas sensors, right? Mechanical sensors, civil structural sensors, the photo sensors, light sensors, acoustic sound sensors, and one sensor node may have more than one sensor. And which sensor is to be activated? It is done programmatically. That is, there is a program control, right? Then you look at this diagram. There are three important components or blocks: transducer, embedded processor, and transceiver. All the units need energy that is supplied by battery, and sensor parameter is usually analog in nature, which is to be digitized. For that, we use ADC. And for processor support, we need the RAM, right? So these are the components. And other ways, for clarity's sake, I have added these two. You don't find these two diagrams in the textbooks. What you find in the textbook is this one. Second and third, you don't find, right? And here it is very generalized, right? Generalized multiple sensors, additional facilities, LP, that is GPS facility, actuator, right? These are indicated in this. Relay sensors are like this. A sensor node consists of myriad number of sensor nodes, large number of sensor nodes, densely deployed, right? So they are deployed in a dense manner, right? That is the important thing you should understand. And mostly they are deployed inside the phenomena very close to it. For example, if you want to measure the pressure in a boiler, they are immersed in the boiler. And whereas if you want to detect the forest fire, right, or you want to monitor the wildlife, right, then you may deploy them very close to them. So that way it all depends on the application. So the important relationship between, given a sensor node, typical sensor node, the relationship between communication range and sensing range is communication range should be greater than double the sensing range. Then only the communication is possible, right? Then GDI application, they want to study the habitats of or habits, living habits or living conditions of seabirds, stone petrels. So the University of California, Berkeley people, they have selected this island in Maine state, in Gulf of Maine, right? And then they have deployed the network, and this is the architecture. So sensor nodes are deployed in the burrows for measuring the microenvironmental parameters or conditions in a given area. That in island, know that is divided into patch networks. In each network, you have certain number of sensor nodes placed in the burrows. That is 8 number. And that patch network is supported with a gateway for communication with the other outer world, to and fro. Like any command coming, it will be through gateway, and any communication going out is also through gateway, right? So then our transit network is usually on the land area, whereas these patch networks, right? Or you can also have the same island, and then from there you will transmit wirelessly with the help of satellite or without it, where you will use microwave communication or radio communication. And once it is there on the regular area where the internet facility is available, you will send that, you will route that to a data storage in the university, where it is staged. Data is gathered and maintained in like a warehouse. And so now that data is left for processing and for research by the domain experts. So this is the typical architecture used in early application. And this is the generalized architecture. Nowadays, any wireless sensor network application is deployed that takes this architecture, that follows this architecture. So you can see the target area, sensing field, where the sensor nodes are deployed either randomly or regularly. Randomly means they are without any prior planning they are deployed. Regularly means there is a lot of planning and the deployment follows a regular pattern, right? So that way, once a network is deployed, they form sensor nodes on their own. They form a network, and there is a base station or sink nearby it, right? And the command from the user, from the monitoring station is given to get the readings. So there it is data centric, as I mentioned in the morning. It is not address centric. It will not be monitoring station cannot address a particular sensor node for a particular value, whereas it can only specify it can request the information in the form of queries, right? So that way, the query is fled or disseminated in the entire network. All the sensor nodes where that query holds good will get activated, and those and such nodes they become sources, data sources, right? And how that data is communicated back to the sink. There is a lot of subject like we use the in-network processing. One student could raise that out in the morning. So there is a lot of in-network processing before the useful information is delivered to the base station. So there you may use the concepts such as clustering, right, and then and other data aggregation techniques are also used for efficient information delivery, which are the concepts must be energy aware, energy efficient, right? So this is the typical architecture, right? Typical architecture. Now to continue further. So what are the applications of a wireless sensor network? So here, what is happening? Can you look at the image? So here there is a snow field, right? Sensors are deployed. They are deployed randomly just to measure the atmospheric condition. What is the temperature? What is the humidity? Right? What is the atmospheric pressure? To know that, right? Even right. So that way. So here, this is the effect of seismic tank. That is what is a earthquake, right? So here, to avoid such calamities, what can be done is we can place the seismic sensors underground and like well below the ground, right, underground, and those sensor nodes will be able to detect vibrations. So earthquake, if it is hit, the earthquake has to travel from the epicenter. Usually it takes some 30 minutes, right? So meanwhile, minor vibrations are detected by seismic sensors, and it can raise the alarm. So the golden window of 30 minutes can be used to evacuate the people, or you can ask them to come out of their houses so that human life loss can be minimized, right? So that is the first seismic applications. Next, you can see the concept is very similar, but this is to measure the soil contamination, particularly in industrial estates and industrial area, where the industrial effluents or wastes are released and they evenly mix up with the underground water. So the nearby villagers, they should drink water. So you we place the sensors underground which will measure the quality of the water or the condition of the pollution. If the pollution levels are beyond certain levels, you can raise the alarm and ask the villagers not to drink water from these sources or to drink the healthy water from other sources. To that way, you can alert the nearby dwellers. So here the point is that the sensors are deployed underground for detecting the soil contamination, right? And you can see in the next thing, I think you are following. So this one you can see, this is sea coast, so you can also use for monitoring the marine life, right? So quality of water, or salinity of the water, right? Pollution levels of water, you can measure continuously and take accordingly appropriate measures. And ecosystem monitoring, so this is another application. So what is happening to atmospheric pollution? What are the levels of oxygen or carbon dioxide or the presence of the micro pollutants? So based on that, we can initiate some measures. So this is ecosystem monitoring. So there are so many applications, just a few are mentioned here. We can also use sensor networks in our home to make them smart for detecting the mobility of the user. And when the user enters into a room, you can take the help of actuator and to switch on the lighting as well as the ventilation system by fan or AC or exhaust fan, anything, right? So there are wide range of applications, broad spectrum of applications are there for wireless sensor networks, right? So this is the typical architecture. Now, this is another important slide you should understand. I will make a pause for 1 minute. Any doubt? Because it is post-lunch session. I don't know how many of you have, how many of you are active, right? There are totally 56 students. Any doubt, please? Here so far. So in this session, right? I have explained this architecture, right? And the typical applications, right? Morning I have not covered these applications, but architecture is covered, right? So any doubts, please? Anyone, any doubt? Otherwise, no, I don't know how many of you are quite active listening to the lecture. No one is asking. Yeah, you have understood, Muskan. Okay. Any other, please? No doubts. Or shall I ask some questions? Shall I ask some questions? Are you ready for it, or you don't want? Okay. Yeah. Anyone, please? No doubt. Okay. Sai Sekhar Reddy. You have any questions? Are you active in the morning also? You don't seem to be active. Just connected to smartphone and watching TV elsewhere. Sai Sekhar, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Hello.
Okay. Any other? Harita B. Balla Harita, are you active? It's post-lunch session, so I don't know how many of you are feeling sleepy. Beulah, no one is responding. Means 100% sleeping. Chandu, Charan, Craig.
Yes, sir.
Rakesh, Sajjan. Beulah responded. Divija,
Yes, sir.
Hemant,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Jyoti,
Sir.
Muskan,
Yes, sir.
Charisma,
Yes, sir.
Rakesh Velugu,
Sir.
Sai Preeti, Kota,
Yes, sir.
Sulomiti, Saumya Mitra, Vamsi Taneru.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm there, sir.
Saumya Mitra, you are there.
Yes,
So some people seem to be option-minded. I don't know. Soon you need to take the exams also. That is, keep that in mind. It is not simply for me. It is not just dumping some information online and then leaving. It is not so. It is you who have to understand the concepts and take the exams sooner or later. Right? That is unavoidable. Right? Kindly understand. There is nothing like default promotion. Right? There is nothing like. Okay. So come back. We'll continue. Yeah, it's time to understand the differences between. Right? This is from the examination point of view. This is an important concept. Right? How do you distinguish wireless sensor networks from conventional mobile ad hoc networks? That is WSN versus nets. So the first difference, the number of nodes in a sensor network can be several orders of magnitude higher than the nodes in an ad hoc network. Are you getting this? So if you take a typical MANET, then you may find hardly 50 nodes or 100 nodes. That's a big network, ad hoc network. But when it comes to WSN, if you take a simple application like weather monitoring, you find few lakhs, few millions of sensor nodes. That's the scale of difference, right? Network size is of that order. Sensor nodes are densely deployed. They are very densely deployed, right? Mostly there will be overlapping. Right, that is the thing. Whereas in case of MANETs, sensor nodes has their less number compared to sensor network. They are not that densely deployed. For example, 100 nodes. How much area they are deployed? In the given area they are deployed, so they are not that dense compared to WSN. Third point, sensor nodes are limited in power, computational capacities and memory. That is, the WSN is resource scarce, highly resource constrained environment. The WSN is. Right? Why? Why it is so? Here, they're very tiny. Using some MEMS or NEMS technology, they are fabricated all in one chip. Very tiny chip. Earlier it was of size rose petal. Now they are scaled down to the size of a sand particle, more or less. And these have built-in battery. Once the battery is drained out, the node is considered to be dead because there is no provision for recharging. But whereas MANETs, it is not so. you can recharge or replenish the battery. 1 second, I will take water. Yeah, we'll continue. Yeah, so the next difference, sensor nodes are prone to failures. When sensor nodes are deployed from a height, suppose you want to deploy sensor nodes in a forest. What is the way out in a dense forest? Is it possible for humans to venture into the dense forest and deploy, sprinkle them, or throw them in the forest area? It is not possible. So what you will do? You may fly in a low, you may go by a low flying flight, and from there you may sprinkle. You may just leave them from a certain height, right? Then they will take their positions in the forest. While they are falling into the area, they may hit some rock area and some may get physical damage. Or they may take their positions near a electric field, magnetic field, and thereby they may fail, right? Or some may fall in some water. They become out of order, right? So the sensor nodes are vulnerable for damages and failures. But what about mobile hosts? It is not so. There can be failures. Suppose it is dropped, right? So it may fall to the floor and then it may get damaged. But that such probability is less compared to WSN. Topology of sensor network changes frequently. Why? Here, can anyone answer this point? Why topology of WSN changes frequently? Here, the sensor nodes, once they take their position, right, then they are not changing their position. Then topology should be static. Why it is becoming dynamic, highly dynamic? Why? Can anyone answer? The points are given already. You need to think and give the answer. Anyone, please? Why the topology of sensor network? Yeah, please.
Unless they are fixed or attached to something, they will be moving due to natural causes. I think so.
Unless they are fixed
To something like a wall or something like that.
You mean to say that they, because of air or because of water, they are moving, their position change?
I think so, sir.
No, it is not correct. We assume once they take their position, we assume that they are not changing their location. And the most important reason is the before point. You look at that before point. Sensor nodes are prone to failures. Quite frequently, nodes are failing. Because of these failures now, the topology keeps on changing. Because earlier it was A was a neighbor of B. When A fails, B will no longer sense its neighbor A. So because of that, the topology changes. So this is the failures, node failure is the reason for dynamic change of topology of AWS. That is the answer, right? Then sensor nodes mainly use broadcasts. Most ad hoc networks are based on peer-to-peer, not point-to-point. They are peer-to-peer, P2P networks, you say. Sensor nodes mainly use broadcasts. Yeah, understand this one. Why? Yeah, you should understand this point clearly. Here, when a sensor network is forming, what is the medium that is used? It is the air, and that medium is shared. Please remember, we don't have those many channels, right? There is one channel that is being shared by all the nodes. So here, I'm sorry. the medium air is being shared, right? And air is usually broadcast in nature, and ad hoc networks are usually based on peer-to-peer, right? So there is nothing like right. There is nothing like client-server architecture here. We don't have certain nodes acting as clients all the time and the rest as servers. No, it is based on the concept of peer-to-peer. With respect to particular data item, one node is the source, the other is the receiver. But if you take another receiver, the converse may happen. What earlier it was a sensor, now that becomes the source. Now the earlier sender, former sender will now become receiver. Right? So this is the concept of peer-to-peer network. There are no clients, there are no servers. So what are they? Only peers. So at a particular point of time, one peer, one host is acting as a source, the other may be acting as a receiver. After some time, the scenario may be reversed. Right? So that is to be understood. Then sensor nodes may not have global ID. Right? Sensor nodes cannot have or don't have global ID like IP addresses in case of nets. Right? What is that? As already mentioned, sensor nodes may have local attributes, local identifiers, but they are not globally unique. Right? So, that is the point. We should make a note. So there is no concept of global ID like conventional mobile ad hoc network and like mobile managed. So unlike nets. Unless nets. Yeah. So is that clear? This is very important concept from the examination point of view also. You cannot ignore this slide. Any doubt, you should get it clarified now. Otherwise, you may not be able to take the exam or you may not be able to write correct answers. Differences, please. Anyone? No?
Sir,
Yeah, please.
if the sensor nodes do not have global ID, how do they know that what was the initial startup point? Like when they receive some disturbance or signal, it will transmit, right? So how will they know what was the starting point?
Starting point. The thing is, I say that there is no global ID, but there is local ID. Within the network, it is uniquely identified, but that is not understood by the observer or base station. Right? So internal IDs are there. So it is like one node having sensed some important information, it is sending to some other node. How do it identify? It will use its local ID and say, I am sending the data to you. Right? But that may not be unique globally. In some other subnetwork, same ID may be used within the same WSN. In one subpart, one number is used. The same number may be reused in other subpart ID, local ID. So that is the point you should understand. Whereas in case of managed, they have each and every mobile host has IP address, and or in other words, you say mobile IP concept. But such thing is not there in WSN. Yeah, any other? Any other doubt, please? Okay, silence permits me to go ahead. Now, what is that you can understand from this slide? Anyone, please? What is there? So here, one second, please. Yeah. Yeah, we shall continue. Yeah, any other doubt, please? Is that okay? The doubt, I think doubt was clear.
Yes, sir.
Any other, please? Yeah. So here, the point that is to be understood from this slide is the sensor nodes, usually they are stationary, but some sensor nodes may have mobility but very little. How do you get that point from this slide? And these things, blue and red, these things, each is one sensor node. So these sensor nodes have taken their position on the ground. They are fixed, mobility is zero. But some nodes are placed, are taken when you are deploying from height, aerially, right? Yeah, 1 second, please. I will attend the call. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let us continue. So here, there are some sensor nodes with very little mobility. The sensor nodes which I have taken position on the tank, they have mobility. You know the speed of a tank, it cannot move on par with your bike or car, right? So very little mobility they have. So that is the thing. And if you, another point if you want to observe, base station. If you keep the base station in an unmanned aerial or ground vehicle, right? So here the base station is also having mobility. It is possible. So if you consider the two entities, sensor nodes and base station, and if you say each having two possibilities, sensor nodes, they can have mobility or no mobility. Similarly, base station can have no mobility or some mobility. That way you will get four possibilities, right? The simple possibility is both are stationary, right? Static, they don't change their positions. That is both sensor nodes and base station. In the other cases, at least one of them changes their position. In the last case, both will change their position. So obviously, when both change their position, that is more challenging task, right? And I'm sorry, I forgot some design issues. Somehow they are not mentioned in this. Design issues also equally important. I think I have not covered. I will see in the other slide. So I will open another slide. Chapter 8, author. Okay. So here, design issues, are they covered? Yeah. Yeah. So you can see these things. Design issues, right? Ease of deployment. In fact, instead of design issues, you can call them as the merits of wireless sensor networks. There is a lot of convenience in deployment, right? Extended range. This is particularly the comparison between wireless versus wired sensors. That way, you can have extended range, sensing range with the help of a wireless sensor network. That is the point, right? It is like one big sensor, wired sensor is there which is covering certain area. And another alternative is you have so many small sensor nodes, wireless sensor networks, wireless sensor nodes. And with the help of those things, you can cover the better area. Coverage will be more uniform and more extended area, right? So that is the point for the same cost. So that is the advantage of wireless sensor network. Then fault tolerant, right? And because you have the redundancy of nodes, you can implement the concepts of fault tolerance. Failure of one node does not affect that. You can say tolerance to fails. Mobility. Usually they have very little mobility, right? And disadvantage is the wireless medium has few inherent limitations such as low bandwidth, error-prone transmissions, and potential collisions in competing or in accessing the channel. These are the disadvantages, right? So wireless ad hoc environment is disadvantaged with very low bandwidth, right? And the medium is error prone, and because it is the broadcast medium, there is every possibility of collision. Collision will have profound impact on the performance, drastic fall down of the performance, right? So these are the disadvantages. So this is another point. They are data centric, right? In traditional and wired, each node is having unique identification, right? But in case of WSN, it is not so. It is data centric. Adjacent nodes may have similar data, and rather than sending the data separately from each sensor node, it is desirable to aggregate similar data before sending it. This is what I mentioned in the morning when there is a question. If there are multiple sources. So, if there are multiple sources, that is usually the case. In that case, the data will undergo in-network processing. In other words, you employ the concepts of aggregation, duplicate separation, right? So, with this, you can do that, right? Yeah. Yeah, so desirable features. So attribute addressing. So attribute addressing is different from typical IP addressing. So here you specified when you are giving a query like temperature T is greater than or equal to 30 degrees. You want to know the area where the temperature is more than 30 degrees. So it is attribute based addressing. You only specify the attribute name and the value and pump the query. Right? That is fuse. You will disseminate the query to the network. So having received the query, each and every node will sense the value and change and check whether the condition holds good at its place or not. If it holds good, that is the desired sensor network, and it should get active and then participate in the communication. Right? Attribute addressing. The next thing is location awareness. Each and every sensor node should be equipped with the location specific technology such as global positioning system. And sensor nodes should react immediately to drastic changes in their environment. Yes. So the response time should be quite small. And query handling. Right? So the network should have the provision for query taking and then query processing and then responding. So for that, it is necessary to stage the data. Data is to be gathered, and you can run the query at sync to give the reply for the query. Routing protocol design is heavily influenced by many challenging factors. So this is the reason why there is a lot of research on the title for routing in Manets, routing for Manets, routing in WSN, right? Energy efficient, energy aware, routing, quality of service aware, routing, right? So that is the point. These challenges can be summarized as follows. Right, so the challenges, the first thing is ad hoc deployment. Next is computational capabilities. What is ad hoc deployment? Sensor nodes are usually deployed randomly. They should take the they should form a network spontaneously. There is no human involvement. It is not possible. Right, that is the first thing. Next thing is that is the what it means when you say design issue is ad hoc deployment. It means that when you are proposing a solution, you should remember that it is based on ad hoc environment, ad hoc deployment, right? So what can be the routing algorithm? Then similarly, computation capability. Sensor nodes have very limited computing power and therefore may run simple versions of routing protocols. We have already discussed, given a Manet, you want to run very powerful you want to run a powerful server, right? So that way, you can do that in case of desktop, but in case sensor nodes, it is not possible. Sensor nodes have very limited power, right? So you can only run simple protocols. So energy consumption without losing accuracy. Given the battery energy, limited battery energy, you should give the best result, and that way in an energy efficient manner. So that is another challenge, design issue. Scalability, I need not repeat, it is already mentioned. So, scalability means you propose a solution, right? You propose a solution for certain number of nodes. You have proposed a routing protocol for 100 nodes. Then it is working in a fantastic manner, in a correct manner. Now, can you say this protocol, the proposed protocol is scalable? No, it is not possible because you have not verified. When the network size is too small, is it working correctly? When the network is too big, is it working with satisfactory performance? If yes, then only you can release, right? Otherwise, you cannot say that thing. So that is scalability. When the network size is increased or decreased, the protocol should still give the acceptable performance. Any question, please? Communication range, fault tolerance, connectivity. Right. So these are the other challenges. Then continuing further, design protocol, routing protocol design is heavily influenced by many challenging factors such as ad hoc deployment, computational capabilities, energy consumption without losing accuracy. Right? Yeah, I have already discussed that point. Then other design issues are transmission media, quality of service, control overhead, security. Transmission media, here we are using a broadcast medium which has got high error rate, right? So given these errors, how do you deal with that? Then the quality of service. So when you want to have value-added application, we must implement this parameter, quality of service, and the control overhead, right? When you are going for routing, so how do you minimize the overhead? Then security, you cannot compromise with security. So only authorized people should enter into the network, and only authentic people should be enter into the network, and only authorized people should use certain resources, certain facilities, right? So that way, security, it also gets the big share. right? Yeah, I will stop here and take your questions. Any questions, please? Questions, please? Pardon me? Aditya Bhatt. Do you have any doubt, Aditya Bhatt? You are unmuting and then talking. You have a question, you are free to raise it. Already some students started leaving. Yeah. Yeah. So if there are no doubts, we'll continue tomorrow with routing in mobile ad hoc networks. There are some more points to cover. We have covered up to, right, design issues. So we are done with design issues. We will continue from there. Yeah, so let us say bye for today. So I hope you are tired. I'm also tired, right? So you can leave now, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
There are 5 memorable performances in this category, each worthy of a Golden Globe. Sacha Baron Cohen in Borat, Cultural Learnings of America for Make Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan. Aaron Eckhart in Thank You for Smoking,